Hello everyone, DJ here. Welcome back to the show. I gotta say, I have enjoyed my break from this series, but I am very happy to be back at it, jumping right back in again by talking about this week's focus character, Molly, the bright yellow Season 9 newbie. Molly is a character that has been suggested countless times for this series, and I mean rightfully so. She only appeared a handful of times, had a really cool design, and then just fell off the face of the earth, like so many other characters from the hit era. But is Molly an interesting character? What was her basis, and is her original design as horrifying as people say it is? Spoiler alert, yes, it very much is. All of those questions and more will be answered in time, so sit back and relax as we dive into everything Molly. Without further ado, let's get into it. Molly is a bright yellow tender engine who first appeared in the Season 9 episode Molly's Special. In this episode, Molly shows up on the island for no discernible reason, and is tasked with taking empty trucks to the coaling plant. Emily makes fun of her for having empty trucks for some reason, and this hurts Molly's feelings. This leads to Thomas attempting to make Molly's train look like an actually important delivery, decorating it with lanterns and covering the tops of the trucks with green tarps. Soon the secret is revealed, however, as the tarps blow off the trucks in front of Gordon, Percy, and Emily. This causes Molly to run away embarrassed. However, upon hearing that the engines needed the empty trucks to carry coal across the island, she gains the courage to get the job done, no longer worrying about her load not being special, as it does indeed serve a purpose after all. After that, Molly never led in an episode again, and she was relegated to cameos and limited speaking roles across the rest of the hit era. She appeared in the Season 9 episodes Thomas's Milkshake Muddle, Thomas and the Golden Eagle, the Season 10 episodes Big Strong Henry, Sticky Toffee Thomas, Emily and the Special Coaches, and Thomas and the Birthday Mail, and the Season 11 episodes Emily's Rubbish, Henry's Lucky Day, and Thomas Sets Sail. With her last appearance being in the 2008 Thomas and Friends film The Great Discovery, where she appeared during the relay of information between engines about Thomas being found, and at the final celebration at Great Waterton on Sodor Day. Molly, as far as I can tell, is an engine who is friendly and hardworking, but also has a bit of a confidence issue, something that the official website, of course, includes in their bio of her, saying, "Molly is a large, powerful, and bright yellow steam engine. She's proud of her strength, but Molly is also very sensitive. She wants the other engines to think the best of her. She finds any conflict very upsetting and steams away to avoid it." I, of course, have many thoughts on Molly as a character, and I will get into those shortly, but for right now, let's get into some history and talk about Molly's basis. Molly is based on the Great Eastern Railway D56 class, later classified by the LNER after grouping as the D15. The D56 class, along with other similar 440 classes, were bestowed with the nickname Claude Hamiltons, named after the first member of the Claude Hamilton locomotive family, as I will refer to it here, Claude Hamilton, built in 1900. The engine, of course, named after Right Honourable Lord Claude Hamilton, member of the British Parliament and a railway director during the Victorian era. In total, there were 121 Claude Hamilton locomotives built between 1900 and 1923, designed by James Holden and A.J. Hill, with significant contribution from the locomotive superintendent of the Great Eastern Railway, Frederick Vernon Russell, at the Stratford Works, with 10 of the D56 types built between 1903 and 1904. These engines were numbered 1850 to 1859 under the Great Eastern Railway, 8850 to 8859 under the LNER, 7720 to 7729 under the LNER, and 2541 to 2550 under the LNER as well. D56s, similarly to the S46s, of which the original Claude Hamilton was, and H88s of the Claude Hamilton family, had a tractive effort of 17,095 pound force, 2 inside cylinders measuring 19 by 26 inches, and weighed anywhere from 52.2 to 55.9 long tons. The original incarnation of the D56 had Bel-Pair fireboxes, and originally were built as oil burners. Thanks to the rising demand of oil for fuel, however, and the switching of carriage lighting to electricity, it was not seen as economical to keep the engines as oil burners, and they were converted to coal by 1911. As the Edwardian era came into full swing, the D-56s, along with the rest of the Claude Hamilton family, were the Great Eastern Main Line's flagship express locomotives, with the only time their work being taken from them coming in the form of the larger S-69 class taking on some of the heaviest of express trains, with the Claude Hamiltons working on goods and passenger services until as late as 1960. The locomotives originally wore the Great Eastern Railway royal blue livery, and with the 1923 grouping, they were given the apple green livery of the LNER. Once 1929 came, they were all changed to have the LNER-lined black livery, with only 3 locomotives keeping the LNER apple green livery. Dubbed the Royal Claudes, these engines would of course be 8783, 8787, and the first member of the family, Claude Hamilton, which at that point had been rebuilt to be a D16 rather than its original S46 build. I also just wanted to explain something really quickly because I have realized while editing that I didn't really explain it properly. The Claude Hamilton family of locomotives, that being the S46, the H88, and the D56, all those locomotives were very interchangeable with each other, hence why they were given the overall kind of classification and nickname of Claude Hamilton. So you had S46s rebuilt into D56s, you had H88s and S46s that looked like D56s, and then of course when you get into the LNER and the grouping in 1923, you have the S46 becoming the D14, the D56 becoming the D15, and the H88 I believe becoming the D16, or no, sorry, wait, yeah, D16. So there's all these different kind of interchangeable factors with these locomotives. So when you're looking at the photos in this video or photos online, just know that sometimes an engine may start out as a S46, then become a D56. There were many different modifications and changes made over time as well. For example, you have the D15/2 and the D14/2. So all this to say, similar family grouping of locomotives, and that's why they're of all course called Claude Hamilton, but there's all these different little mini variants scattered throughout, so just kind of keep that in mind, folks. Eventually, the engines began to see withdrawals, with the first engines being taken out of service in the mid to late 1940s, with the last of the locomotives scrapped in 1960. This is where things get interesting headcanon-wise, however, as the Claude Hamilton Locomotive Group, based at the Whitwell and Reefham Railway, was originally planning on building a replica of D16/2 number 8783 and giving it the name Phoenix. Started in 2016, the initiative was unfortunately cancelled in 2024. However, what if in the Thomas universe it didn't? It is, of course, highly unrealistic to say Molly could have been a replica, but I personally think that it's more interesting than saying she is just a surviving member of the class. So yeah, screw it. I think in the Thomas universe, the replica D16/2 could actually have been a D56, and Molly could have been that engine. Of course, the project actually has to happen in the Thomas universe, and it is a little different this time, I know, but I thought I would change things up in terms of what my headcanons normally look like. With that, though, let's jump into my thoughts on Molly. I feel like, compared to other newbies from the hit era of Thomas and Friends, Molly is unfortunately fairly forgotten, at least in the public consciousness. She isn't quite like other characters like Whiff, who stayed on into CGI, or Neville and Dennis, who have rather unique or rare bases. She also doesn't have the benefit of characters like Mighty Mac or Fearless Freddy, who had entertaining spotlight episodes at least. She does have her fans within the Thomas community, that's for certain, but I think even amongst Thomas fans, those who like her are in the minority. I don't know, maybe I'm just reading everything wrong. Let me know in the comments if you are a Molly fan. I also really do not like her episode. Not only is Molly's personality not fleshed out well at all, she just gets upset when someone is mean to her and later hides, like wow, big character arc, but everyone in the episode is a brain-dead moron. Like, why is Emily making fun of another engine for hauling empty trucks? You all do either ridiculous or mundane everyday tasks on the railway, literally every day. At least Molly is actually doing a job and not running around with a snowman attached to her buffers or something. Also, why is Molly on Sodor? It's never explained, and that honestly bugs me a lot. And finally, I have said it many times before, but they really should have used Molly more. The foundations for a really fun new character with an interesting, growth-oriented personality was there, and they did nothing or extremely surface-level stuff with it. I don't really have that much to say, to be honest, though, so with that, let's get into Collection Corner. Alrighty, so here we have the 2006 Take-Along Molly, and this is where I have to mention Molly's face. So, as you can all probably tell, her face does not look like it does in the show, as it is huge, and completely covers her smoke box. That is, of course, because originally that was how Molly's design looked. Early promo art of her proves this. And yeah, it is absolutely horrifying, which is why they changed her face to be smaller and give her smoke box more visibility in the actual show itself. The toys, however, did not get the memo, and literally every toy of her released, even in later years, such as her Take and Play and Trackmaster re-releases, all have her with the original promo face design. Now, I will give Take Along some credit here. Their interpretation of Molly's face is way better than the TV show or some of the other ranges, but maybe that's just a bias on my part. There was, however, one range that portrayed Molly's face accurately, however, and that is, of course, the 2008 Capsule Play Rail model of her. So getting back to the Take-Along model of Molly, though, I really do like it. This was in that golden age of Take-Along where they made so many different characters, and they pretty well all had great models, paint schemes, and detailing, all of which apply to Molly. If I had only one criticism of Take-Along Molly, it's that I feel like she is a little stocky compared to her TV show counterpart, but I digress. Still a really great model. I'm giving Molly a 6 out of 10. Well, folks, that concludes this week's episode of Thomas Characters Explained. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you have any suggestions for future characters you want covered in this series, please let me know. I'm thinking next time we might jump ahead a few seasons and talk about one of the Brenner-era newbies like Gator or Hugo or Lexi maybe. Only time will tell. Next week, however, we are going to be jumping back into Canadian rail heritage, so keep an eye out for that video. And this series will likely return the week after. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, guys!